but that's very important that you go ahead and get that. Something else that you may ask whenever you're talking to a customer, do they need 100% loan? If they need 100% loan, then that's starting to limit the type of programs that they can do. If it's rural property, you can do USDA. That's 100% loan, but they're very strict on their credit. Even they say their minimum credit score is a 640, and then there's a couple of companies that say they can do less than a 640. I have never been able to get one to run through with less than a 640 credit score, but you know, there's some company in Oxford that says that they can. And then the week before, or a couple of days before closing, they came back and denied these people after going through the whole process of saying they could. And that realtor called me and I said, they can't. I'm just telling you they can't. I don't see, this person's not strong enough. Not only do we look at credit score, you also have to look at, there's like what we consider layers of risk. And so just because a person can get 100% loan, you know, they qualify as far as a credit score. If they have a history of overdrafts in their bank account, you know, why would we want to give you a loan if you can't manage your credit, your bank statement, and you're needing 100% loan? You've got no skin in the game. So why are you a good risk just because you've got a 640 credit score? You know, you're still not going to be able to get a loan. So there's a lot of other factors that go into that. So, you know, one of the things that you ask is, you know, are you needing 100% loan? USDA is one option. Another option is Mississippi Home Corps. They do have 100% program. They set their own interest rate, so it is higher. Yesterday on an FHA, interest rates were running about 3.25 to 3.3. Mississippi Home Corps is at 4.1. But you think about it, if someone's giving you the money, and you pay it back over a 10-year period, but if they're fronting you the money, you got to pay it somewhere. So that's what they're doing. They're bumping it into that interest rate. But on that program, you only need a 620 credit score. So we do get that a lot. They have opened up the income limits on that. Your household income cannot be more than $95,000. So if you have a married couple and the wife's not going to be on the loan, we still have to look at the wife's income on there, because it's geared more for your lower to middle class people. So, you know, if you're making $120,000 a year, in their mind, they're thinking you should be able to come up with 3.5% for a down payment. So one of the other things that we run into is your down payment monies cannot be borrowed money. You cannot go out and take a loan out, and Adam and I have run into this, and
I actually had
we made
Fairway
it work.
Mortgage tell my client to go out and take a $5,000 loan
Yes.
out for her down payment.
And that's common knowledge.
And then came and told her, well, why did you do that?
Yeah.
You can't do that. Well, because you told her to.
Yeah.
Well,
there's
you say
ways
that,
around
but
that.
you'll when you get into
you'll
this,
see.
you'll understand. People
Right.
don't get it. Go
Or
ahead, I'm sorry.
they're into so many other things that, you know, they'll just pop off something and then not think the whole process through and not be able to finish it. You know, mine, I've been in this for so long, there's a reason that I consider a good reputation. I don't have mine fall apart right before closing. I'm just like you, I only get paid if a loan closes. I'm not gonna spend my time on something and waste 30 or 45 days and then come down to it's not gonna work. If I say it's gonna work, I'm gonna make it work one way or another. And I mean, that's, Adam will tell you, we've had some struggles, but, you know, and I was telling Micah earlier, this is not a black and white type, hi there, not a black and white type loan. Come on in. Hey, how are you?
Hey, grab your chair.
Hey, good morning.
Here you go.
I'll go around. Excuse me.
George told me we had everybody, so we started.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm leaving one job to come to another.
Let me get you a chair.
There is information. And,
We're good, Adam.
Well, not
there's breakfast out
Maybe
here
call it.
too.
Yes, my purse is full of stuff.
I told you those chairs
The
were
chairs
not
are
good.
really
You want the wicker chair, or do you want a different chair?
Oh, no, this is good, I just won't put my phone on until my butt fits in it.
But, getting back to like your down payment can't be borrowed, there are ways around this, and Adam and I have had actually this same situation. If a customer takes out a loan, it needs to sit in the bank for 60 days. On the 61st day, we can have them go get a 60-day printout, and then I don't see where that large sum went in their bank account. So presto, they've got enough money for down payment, and I don't have to know that that was borrowed funds. So
Again,
there
a
are
seller in
ways,
this market to hold for 60 days
right?
is
So that's
impossible.
something that you wanna try to get them to the mortgage office as fast as you can, so that you can bypass those issues on the front end if you can. Of course, there's usually, those are the things that come up after the fact. One of the other things that we run into quite often is if a property is sitting empty, if it has a well and or a septic, you have to get a well and a septic letter. So,
it's a well clearance letter,
and that's come from the county.
and please
Or-
make sure you put on there a licensed Mississippi authority.
Yes, and it
We
has to be
don't want
signed
Joe
in their
Blow
license
neighbor from
number.
down the street saying, oh, that septic's just fine. We don't want that. We want them to hire somebody that is a licensed Mississippi authority
Right.
for that,
And
and I
we
make
run
sure to
into
put that in
that
the
a lot.
contract.
We run into that a lot, and I get this with a lot of seasoned agents. I don't know, maybe because there's not as many properties that have well and septic, they just seem to forget this. Well and septic is very, very important. Septic's easy to get because you can call an independent company. Well, there's only two ways to get that. You call the county, and they usually take about 2 weeks. So if you wait until the last minute to get your well water, like I have one that's supposed to close tomorrow, we do not have our well water test. We told the listing agent 2 weeks ago, and this is a very seasoned agent, and she, in the beginning, told me that she could get it easily. It's 2 weeks later, we're supposed to close tomorrow, and we still don't have it. Because there is no control over the county. The only other way, and it's only like $10, I think, but you have to go, it's the health department, I don't know, they can tell you how to, who to call and what to do. The only other way to do this is there is a place out on Whitten, I believe, it's called Wayfair Analytical. It's $59, I believe is how much it is, but you as the agent, you have to drive out there, you have to pick up the sample box, a sample container, you have to take it back to the property, and typically they'll tell you let the water run for 24 hours, then you take the sample, then you take it back out to Whitten, and then it's 2 or 3 days. So,
Honestly, guys, there's a Mason Water Wells, I don't know who you use.
I use county.
Okay.
yeah,
A lot of times, even after you do the sample, they may have to go out and chlorinate
yes,
because there's certain levels of bacteria in the water or possibly E. coli. So I actually recommend not doing that by yourself. I recommend you hiring a professional or in the county to come out and do it.
Anything you want to do at your house, you want a proper licensed professional. And for, depends which client you have, but you wanna start your inspections as soon as possible, like on day 2 of the contract for your home inspection, because you wanna kind of pass that and then start these other inspections.
Grab you a chair, girl.
I
You
will.
lied to me. They keep on coming.
Hey, well, I can tell.
I love it.
Hey Stacy, you want some of this over here? I'm just gonna keep getting up my chair, go around.
Thank you.
hey, I'm hoping that continues to work like that.
Yeah, all right, well, I'm down to the bench now. We had 2 rows.
Hey, how are you?
You want a decent chair?
What's that?
You want a decent chair? I'll go get a decent chair. Here, you
Oh.
want this one?
Well,
And I'll
thanks,
go get it.
guys, I appreciate it. Just useful chairs, I hadn't said yet. Here, kiss him. Thank you.
But, Adam touched on this is very important. Anything that you have done, any inspections or repair work or anything like that, you wanna make sure that it's a licensed contractor, that has to, and their license number has to be on there, and they have to sign the invoice or the, inspection. So you wanna make sure, we get this quite a bit with the septic, because that's a individual company, where it'll be on, maybe on their letterhead, or a lot of the companies, they're individuals that do it, and they make up their own invoices, and so they'll handwrite their company name at the top or whatever. That's okay, but it still needs to have their license number, and they still need to sign it. So that's very important. Another thing that, ran into yesterday, the termite letter came back that there was previous infestation, and they treated the property, and there was some damage. We have to have evidence that the damage was repaired, okay? So, this is the same agent that I'm still waiting on the well waters, on, so, yeah, it's not warm and fuzzy here, so she's like, y'all sure are nitpicking everything. No, this is the guidelines, and my person is doing an FHA loan, which is a more strict type loan. I could care less, I don't care what, but these are the guidelines. So she said, well, I'll just take pictures. No, you won't. I can't have your picture. First of all, your picture may not show, or somebody may have just gone in and painted over that. I have to have documentation showing that the repair has been done. And so now she's having to go back to the painter, who probably is not licensed. I don't know what's gonna happen
So
with that one.
the homeowner can't do their own repairs?
They could, but they would have to write a letter stating, but if they hire it, it has to be by a licensed contractor. So if it's minor work, then the seller can. But typically, anytime there's going to be damage, or most homeowners are not able to do a lot of the repairs. But and I'll tell you a prime example. I had one last year. This has been about 8 months ago, and it was a FISBO. First of all, I always tell everybody, run from the FISBOs. That's
I know
because there
what a
is no
FISBO
one
is.
representing them. But the
For
problem
sub-owner.
was,
Okay.
yeah, this kid knew the person. When we got ordered the appraisal, the heat and air was not working. So, what they did is they,
I just wanted you to know.
the appraiser just made a notation in there, recommend having a licensed HVAC person to go in and inspect the unit. We get a invoice, and it's handwritten at the top. There is no license number, and it's not signed. So we have the homeowner go back, and they bring it back to me. There's a license number on there. We don't investigate. We don't do all of that. The heat was never fixed. This kid bought that house almost 8 months ago, and when he got in there, there was black mold. And
Does it not have a
the
home inspection though?
I don't remember him having one done. He probably did not. And so, but a lot of times the black mold doesn't show up if it's behind, you get in there and you start knocking out walls or whatever, and then that shows up. This kid didn't have the money to be buying in the first place. He barely got in there. It's 8 months later and he's still not in the house. Yeah, and so then I get a text from him yesterday, Miss Micah, is there something that you can do? No, kid, I'm sorry, I can't, except for I will give him that invoice that says that it was serviced by this person, and his only alternative now is gonna be legal.
And if you ain't
because
got
I'm
money
sure-
for that, then.
right,
it's
I'm sure
pointless.
that whoever that homeowner got was probably not licensed, but I don't know that. But, my gut feeling is it was probably brother next door that signed off on it and they just made something up, but I don't know that.
We had the same one with James Lease where I had
Mhm.
Dr. Heat and Air came out to the property, supposedly fixed air conditioning. They got in there and it was still not fixed.
Right,
But I had all the invoices and everything
Right.
from the guy saying it was fixed. And that's kind of hard as a buyer's agent, that you are kind of at the disposer of the seller doing those repairs, and the seller bringing in their own person. If you think that they're not up on the up and up, and they're not doing what they're saying they're supposed to be doing, you can get your own person to come in there and check the work that's been done.
Right.
If you're, you know, if you're really worried about the situation. But heating and air is a big deal though, because especially if you're getting a home warranty, which I'll bring Christy Stokes in one day and we'll do a home warranty class too, but if it is stated in the home inspection that there is a problem with the heating and air, and they got a home warranty,
It will not cover
they
it.
will not cover it.
Mm-mm.
Only way it will cover it is if they show that there was a heating and air guy that came in, did the repairs, and that the heating and air was actually working properly at the time of closing.
Right.
So protect yourself, protect your clients.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's one of those things that the more you do on the front end, the smoother this whole transaction will go. And, you know, the other thing is, if we ask for an inspection or a copy of the inspection, or we ask for something from you, it's not because we want to, it's because the investor is going to ask that. One of the other things that we do see, is if you are writing up an FHA contract, please make sure that you put an FHA VA addendum in with that. That's probably, I would say, on 90% of my contracts that I get from my realtors, that is one thing that's left off. And why, I don't know, I guess it's just not part of your normal contract,
What's that?
an FHA VA addendum.
Yeah.
So if you know that your customer's going to be getting an FHA or a VA, loan, please, just to make things run a little smoother,
It's on the checklist.
yeah. But I'm telling you, 90% do not
It
have
ain't
them on
me.
there. So, no, but, you know, like I said, I don't know if it's just not part of the normal checklist for,
It should be.
for companies. It should, because it's always going to be required, on there. But again, the well and the septic, if the house is empty, it's going to have one. Whether the appraiser or the normal requirements don't require that, but if a house is sitting empty, it will be required. So, you probably won't run across that a whole lot, but now that more properties are starting to move out of town into the rural areas, we are starting to see that quite a bit, on there. So, the little checklist that I've given you, there's a lot of information that's in there, that's just good for you to have just a general knowledge. One of the things that I'll tell you, if you have a customer that is borderline on their credit and they're needing something that's fairly fast, one of the things that we've seen, I had a little customer, very young customer, had a low credit score, and it was mostly because he was young, just getting started, and didn't have anything. I had his mother add him to 2 credit cards as an authorized user. And now she was very strong. They had like $20,000 or $30,000 limits, and she didn't owe anything on them. So he got her history by being added as an authorized user, and it bumped his score up 111 points.
Wow.
In like 2 to 3 weeks. So there's ways that you can do things. And I think it's Experian, you see the commercials sometimes that say Experian Boost, where you can call and get your utilities added and all that. Does not work for mortgage. If it says self-reporting, we take that off. So that does not help, because I was doing it just to see if it changed scores and whatever, you know, because I'm always playing with these things to see if it works. Well, then, in one of our meetings, I was like, oh yeah, it boosted my score, and they're going, that doesn't work. Okay, well, somebody could have told me that before I spent, you know, all this time doing this, but I'm always experimenting to see what, you know, what can change scores or whatever. Another really good way for your customer, if you know they're a little strapped, if they have credit cards, you know, that's, and I know a lot of this is getting into things that you wouldn't think that you would normally tell customers. Ask Adam, he'll tell you they'll talk to me and then they'll come back and start talking to you about the same thing. And if you've got some knowledge about this, then that's gonna make them feel more comfortable that, you know, okay, yeah, she must have known what she was talking about. On your credit cards, you could have a credit card for 30 years and never be late. But if you've got that maxed out, it's going to report negatively on your credit score.
Anything
So,
over 50%
Yes, it will,
of the credit limit.
50 to 75% doesn't report negative, but it doesn't give you positive. So it's basically just a wash. Anything over 75% will take points away. So if you can get them down below 50%, that's gonna give them somewhere 10 to 20 points. If you can get them to 30% or less of that high limit, then that's closer to 40 points. It's amazing, but it does not happen overnight. It can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days. But, I mean, if they're borderline, that's an easy way if they have the credit cards, and that's what's keeping them down. So, I had one yesterday that I pulled, no negative, they had one medical collection on there, which we don't require medical collections to be paid. But had a 604 credit score, which is way too low. Nothing negative, but had 20 credit cards and every single one of them were maxed out.
Debt to income ratio.
Debt to income was a little
And the
high,
max
not
out
that
on the credit
bad,
cards
but it was just
killed them.
because they had maxed out all their credit cards for Christmas. You know, and I'm like, well, first of all, 20 credit cards, you ought to have your hands spanked anyway, because nobody needs 20 credit cards.
No.
You know, we suggest 2, maybe 3, you know, but you get to 20, you got a problem. You know, you need to stay home, quit shopping for a minute. But, you know, that's one of the things. The other thing is, do not tell a customer to close an account. If you close an account, it will lower your score as much as 100 points. Temporarily. Now, it'll go back up and pretty fast, but it could take 6 months or longer. So, you know, and we're like, you would think it would do the opposite.
What if it closes due to inactivity?
That's okay. That will
Okay.
affect your score slightly, but then usually about after 60 days, then it'll go back up. But if you as the consumer closes it,
Okay.
that's when it'll drop anywhere from 70 to 100 points. Now, an installment loan does not matter, because that's a set amount, but a credit card is considered high risk because you can max it out or whatever. So.
Or if your limit drops because of inactivity, because you're not using the card, does that look bad?
It does a little bit, but it's gonna depend on if you, you know, if it's inactive, then you don't owe anything on it anyway, so that shouldn't hurt you.
Okay.
You know, so that's the big thing is, you know, if they've lowered it because you are a high risk because you've got everything else maxed out, then that's an issue.
Well, just, it's not used,
Right. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're like,
And the other thing is, I suggest if you've only got a couple of cards or whatever, and this is what I tell my customers, if they're trying to get their credit started and they have no one that'll add them as an authorized user, whatever, a secure credit card, but you need to make sure that that's going to report to all 3 of the credit bureaus, because not every secure credit card does. So whenever you go to open that, you ask them, you know, or have them ask, will this report to all 3 of the repositories? And then, very important that they do this exactly like I'm telling you. Go put a tank of gas on there or something very inexpensive. Put that card back in a drawer, because you didn't have it to begin with, you don't need it now. So you go put a tank of gas on there. When that first bill comes due, pay all but $5 or $10. Leave a very small balance on there. You don't want to pay it off, because then you're still not on that grid. So leave $5 or $10 on there. The second month, pay it off, do it again. By the time the 4 months rolls around, that will have given them probably somewhere between 40 and 70 points. But it's not something that's gonna happen tomorrow
No.
or next week. It is down the road, but I can't tell you how many customers I have that I start working with today. It'll be a year from now, but they still come back because I took the time. Most people won't take the time because they're too busy and it's wasting their time right now. But you know what? if they know that you're trying to help them now, they have friends, they have family, and I'm telling you, that's how you get your repeat customers.
Well, and that's how you show your clients you care.
Absolutely.
If you bring them to a lender like Micah that's going to, they don't qualify right now. They have a 580 credit score. They have 4 or 5 credit cards maxed out. And you know they're gonna be 6-7 months down the road. Bring them to somebody like her that's going to work with them, that's gonna show them how to fix their credit without charging them, because there's credit repair companies out there that charge people an arm and a leg for the information she gives freely.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I love about her too is that she may not always do the loan, but yet she is willing to actually help my clients, even if it doesn't benefit her. And when you
'Cause I'm
find a
hoping
lender
they'll
like that,
remember
that's
I was
huge.
willing to do that, and then if I know, if I fix them, sometimes if I've already started them and our underwriter's seen it or whatever, if they've seen it, it doesn't go away. And so I can fix them and then send them somewhere else, and then hopefully they'll remember that. And I'll tell you, this is a prime example. I've been doing this a long time, so, I have more repeat business than anyone else in our office. And it's just because of that.
Right.
We had a customer that walked in, this has been several years ago, and it was a small loan, $50,000, okay? That wasn't even enough to pay my electric bill, let alone the time that it took for me to do this. I got the best review. He said he had called 4 other companies and nobody would call him back because he told them in advance that, if he was buying a house in DeSoto Village for $52,000, okay? Nobody returned his phone call. I just happened to get it and I did. He wrote the very best review I have ever had. I mean, that's on there, I was the bomb. The owner of our company, that's the big thing on my webpage. He thinks that's just hilarious. I've done 4 loans from people he's referred to me.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So, it's
Five
not,
dozen our house.
that's
Right.
right. It's not just that person, it's who they touch.
Right.
And so, and none of those were really big. I think the biggest one was 125,000. But okay, they added up and word of mouth. And I mean, anytime anything's posted on Facebook or whatever, I mean, he is one of my biggest fans.
Well, that's awesome.
And so, you know what? I felt better about that than, my checkbook, like the $200,000 one better. But, I don't hear anything from this person, but this one is one of my biggest advertisers now. So, to me, that's what's most important. But I can remember our office manager walking in my office and he goes, "Why are you wasting your time?"
Oh, yeah.
And then I went back and I said, "This is why." And it made me feel good. So, that's,
And her office manager is the one who does all the 203Ks too.
Yeah.
So,
we
we like Jason Woods.
But the thing is, like even we do the 203Ks and whatever, it starts out with whatever loan officer that you want to do, and then we move it over to him. So we still start, and then I'm a little OCD. I don't like to turn my customers over to somebody else. I stay with mine from start to finish. One of the other things that I do that a lot of the loan officers do not do, I go to the closing table with my customers. Because
Every
if
time.
there's any issues whatsoever, I want to be there. And, the other thing is I over exaggerate my payment and the monies needed for closing because I don't like surprises at the closing table unless they're good. So by the time we get to the closing table, they have less money they have to bring and their payment's less. They love me. So, and I can't tell you one incident since I've started doing that, and that's been 15, 16 years. I've not had one customer that had to bring more money because I don't do it a lot, by a whole lot, but I still have that little extra padding there. So, if someone's coming in and they're saying, "Oh, I can beat that." No, you really can't. That's my, this is why I'm telling you this, because I don't want you to come up short, because I don't know what your insurance is going to be, or there are some other factors there, so, there's just a lot that goes into it, but, anybody got anything else? I talk a lot once I get started.
No, why don't we, real quick, so we closed one when I was at Crowlike, and let me tell you something, guys. He was a truck driver, and she's actually just did a refi for him as well. But this man, when he was handed the keys and all was said and done, he broke down and started crying. This is a big black, I mean, this dude was,
It's one of my favorite.
it was huge, you know,
customers, yeah.
and you just wouldn't imagine that him actually owning a home would mean so much to him.
Well, and let me tell you how
And let
this
me
one
tell
got
you.
started
You'll
too.
get job satisfaction for sure.
They
Oh, it was
had
awesome.
started out with someone else, I think, and then Adam
They went
got,
they went to Adam's homes and
right,
they kept telling him that they couldn't get him qualified because
Right.
he was a truck driver, but he hadn't been driving for 2 years.
and that makes it hard if they get paid by the load. It's basically just like you are, that's commission, so you gotta have a 2-year history.
And there's a lot of tax write-offs that,
Right,
that truck drivers do.
right.
So it lowers to look
Right.
like your income's not as much.
So when I got him, I told him, you have to do exactly like I'm telling you. I'm taking you on, I'm gonna be your new mama, and that's how I have him in here, in my phone as son, and he sends me a text, he'll go, hey mama, I'm just checking in with you. I mean, it's hilarious, and this has been, what, two years?
It's been almost 2
3?
years ago.
Yeah, and, whenever the rate started dropping, I thought, what, I've got some customers that would benefit from this, so I reached back out to him, and I just sent him a text, and I said, hey, this is Micah, and he goes, no, this is Mom, what do you want, and I haven't talked to him since. I just did his refi and saved him $140 a month, and he came back and he said, why did you tell me this? And I said, because I knew it would help you, and he said, I love you, and I mean, it was... It
Oh,
was
that's
just
awesome. Let
something
me tell you.
yeah, and he honestly, he cried. I went back to the office and I said, this is why I do what I do. This is what has, made my day. I mean, it just made my,
It made our year for
It
sure.
did. I mean, he's just awesome. And,
And it wasn't even I think it was like $155,000
yeah,
house.
it was a smaller one.
It wasn't a big commission, but it was the first time, and you're gonna get this with your clients. Their appreciation, and especially when it's a first time home buyer and they're older. I just literally sold somebody who was 60 years old their first home.
Yeah.
They've never owned a home, they've rented, and they were, let me tell you, those closings, those are the ones that are most emotional, and they hit you right here.
Right. And even though they're small, just remember that ripple effect, they touch a lot of people. So just because it's a small loan, that doesn't mean that, that's your final stop. That's not a dead stop. You're gonna reach a lot of people. So reputation means a lot. And if you take
Especially
that
in a
extra
small
step to help someone, you'll get it back 10 times. I promise you will.
Yep. All right, girl, we better get into this class.
Okay,
Thank
all
you
right,
so
so
much. Anybody else have any
anybody
questions
need
for her before she goes? Thank you so much for
My
coming in.
business card is in the,
In
the
the
bags.
bag.
Also,
I think
one
she has
thing
something here,
that
too.
I have found, I'm sorry, one more
Laura, did
thing.
you get a bag?
I have a phone app that, that can be shared. Adam's got it on his, he can share it with you. It is tremendous. It's something, if you're out in the field and you've got someone that, say they're looking at $150,000 house, there's a mortgage calculator at the bottom of that app, so that, you don't have to just call and say, okay, what would the payment be at, 150, or what would it be at 175? I share that with a lot of my customers. I just had one, the one that's closing tomorrow. I promise he probably punched in 70 times, different calculations and whatever, because I do get a notification on it. But that is a tremendous asset that you can do with your customers, especially if you're out in the field, and they say, oh, well, I don't know if I can afford that. Give me just a minute.
What app is it?
It's her app.
It's my personal app.
Oh, okay.
And Adam can share it with you.
Okay.
I might do a group text
Yeah.
with everybody here and I'll let you share that.
Okay, all right, that'd be great. You just have to have a little bit of general knowledge about what interest rates are doing, but, you know, that's, you can come up with something, and then you sit there and you calculate that, and then you look like you're the hero, cause you're saying, oh, well, you know, this is just a guesstimate, but this is about what your payment would be.
Plus you gotta
People
add
love that.
taxes and insurance.
Right,
That mortgage calculator is not gonna give you taxes and insurance.
Right.
So add another $200 to $300 on top.
depending on where
of
you
that.
are or whatever, but it does calculate mortgage insurance, you know,
Okay.
the PMI or whatever, so
Okay.
that is something really good to share with your customers.
It is.
Okay,
Thank you so
anybody got
much.
questions?
Come do that.
Text is a great way to get me, weekends, nights, it doesn't matter, so you're welcome, so if anybody needs me, good luck.
She's awesome.
Thank you.
She is so awesome. I use her probably for 90% of my buyer's loans, and y'all see why. She's so knowledgeable. She really works hard for your clients, and she's gonna be upfront and honest with you. She is the one that took me under her wing when I first got my license and taught me how USDA loan works, what kind of credit score you're gonna need, FHA loan works, what kind of repairs, what things, because that knowledge you get to take out to the field with you with your clients, and the more knowledge you have in this business, the better off you are. Because when you're out there and your clients are asking you questions, you're not always gonna have the answer. You're not. And when you don't, just say, I don't know, but let me find out. People will respond better than that than you sitting there having to backpedal because you told them something and then you're wrong. So, just take that as advice, and, that's the best advice I can give you is you're not gonna know everything starting out, okay? That's what George is here for, that's what I'm here for, that's what lenders like Mike are here for. When you have questions, reach out to them and ask. Most of the time you can get her on the phone. If you call her cell phone, she will answer. And it doesn't matter if it's Saturday or Sunday. If not, then she doesn't answer. I usually send her a text and she can answer that way. Alright? Alright, well, let's go into this contract class real quick. So everybody grab one of these. Real quick.
Thank you.
Here you go. So what I have done, and what I did on dot loop, just so everybody can see. Micah, can you see? I know you can't see. I actually went in and made a template. And it has the checklist on front, and then every other document already on there, okay? So when you're going to start a buyer's contract, you're gonna go into your buyer's template, alright? I can show y'all how to do this and do it. It'd probably be easier because I have so many people to maybe do it one-on-one, either with me or George, after the class, just so we can kind of move forward a little bit and kind of go into some of the stuff. But, this is what I recommend you doing as far as put your checklist on there. Go ahead and put all your documents on there that you're gonna need for a buyer's contract. And then that way, when you open up this template and you start adding it into your loop, everything's gonna be there that you need. Some of it you don't need, all the time, but a lot of it you will need all the time, okay? So that being said, who has one of those checklists real quick? I'm gonna have the checklist part.
And guys, there's a lot of training videos on the dot website too.
They're pretty informative.
They are very informative.
We make a copy for you.
Yeah, if you will, just make a copy of this one for me, baby. Here, actually, just make a whole copy.